Let's continue then talking about the ranked choice voting. That's what we were discussing last time. What I would like to talk about a little bit today is about, well, let's say RCV. That's what I'm going to write for ranked choice voting in the real world. Mostly I'm going to talk about ranked choice voting as it is used in the United States, which is to say not very much. There aren't many places in the U.S. where they use ranked choice voting, but it is used in some places. So in the United States, it's used in the state of Alaska and the state of Maine. They use this for all of their in the state elections. The Senate and the governor, that kind of stuff. All right. Now, in a real life election, the way that we usually do elections, not with the ranked choice, with the plurality system, typically you do have more than two choices on the ballot because there's usually the Democrat, the Republican, and then a few other random guys that you've never heard of. You still, when you vote, you just choose one of those, and almost everybody chooses either the Democrat or the Republican. Now, with the ranked choice voting, you are allowed to rank your choices, but this immediately introduces some confusion because, for example, when I vote, I usually do vote. Actually, I think I always do vote for either the Republican or the Democrat. I've never voted for one of the other guys. And if you say to me, "Hey, in this election, how about you rank your choices instead of just saying your favorite?" To me, that sounds like, okay, fine. I get to express myself a little bit more than I did before. But unfortunately, I have the two people who I care about, and then 4 or 5 other guys I never heard of. Am I really supposed to rank those other guys? I've never heard of them. So what am I supposed to do for the rankings? In real life, when they do this, voters do not need to rank all of the options. And this is a good thing for the voters because the voters, typically, they've never even heard of some of the options. So voters do not need to rank all the options. Because typically they don't even care about many of the options. There's an election going on for the mayor of New York right now. They had the primary and they used ranked choice, and there was something like 15 candidates on the ballot. Nobody's going to want to actually think about what specific order I put all 15 of these in. They usually only care about 1 or 2 of them. So anyway, voters do not need to rank all the options. They can leave some blank. And what that means, if I just leave somebody out of my rankings, that means I don't ever want my vote to count for them in any of the rounds. Remember how the ranked choice works with the rounds, right? You count your votes for some people, and then if your guy gets eliminated, then your vote gets to count for the next person down on your list. If you leave some blank, they can leave some blank, meaning their vote should never count for those other guys. Their vote should never be counted towards one who they omit. All right, let's do an example, and then I got a real life example. So this is a made up example, just to explain what I'm talking about here. Let's say I'm just doing ABCs here. 5 people said ABC, 4 people said BAC, 2 people said C and then B. So these 2 people left A out of the rankings. What that means is they like C the best and then B, and they don't ever want their vote to be considered for A. All right? Okay, I got more here. Let's say 3 people said A only. That means they only want their vote to count for A. If A doesn't win, their vote just shouldn't count for anybody else because they don't want to support B or C in any situation. 4 people say B, C, A, and then 3 people just say C. All right, so I will reiterate. The meaning of this vote is they like C the best, and they don't want their vote to count for A or B in any round, right? This is how you would vote if you were like an A and B hater and you love C. You say, I like C, but if C doesn't win, there's no way I want my vote to count for those other jokers, right? So if you're a true hater, you vote in this way. You vote for the person you like, and then you don't list the people that you hate, because if you list them, it means that in some eventuality, your vote might be counted for them in a later round. If you don't want that to happen, you don't list them, all right? This is how we do it. Now, how do we count up the votes in a situation like this? We did several examples last time, and the ones on the homework, you figured out the results of the various rounds. We should just talk, it's not that complicated, but we should just talk about like how exactly do these work out in the rounds when you have some people who didn't vote for anyone else. Well, we do it in the way that I just described. So the results here, I'm going to count up the first round. I hope everybody remembers how to do this. You look at just the votes in the top position for A's, B's, and C's. I see A on the top here gets 5 votes, also 3 over here, and that's it, just looking across the top. So A gets 5 and 3 in the first round, which is 8. I hope everybody remembers how we did this last time. B, how many times is B on the top? B gets 4 from the second column and also 4 from that column later on. So B is going to get 4 and 4, which again is 8. And then C. C has 2 votes from this column and 3 votes from this column. So they are getting 5 total. That's a 2 and a 3, which is 5. All right. And so C is eliminated. All right. And now I'm going to redraw the chart with the C's taken out. It will say, so this is round 2 here. I got 5 voters said A and then B. I'm taking out all the C's. 4 said B and then A. 2 say just B now. That's because I took the C out of the third column there, and now it's just a B. 3 people say just A. 4 people B, A. And these 3, and this is the only like somewhat weird and interesting part, these 3 people, they used to say, I only support C. Now that C is out, these people, they're just out. Like their vote is not going to count for anybody else in the further rounds. Maybe I'll just indicate that like that. All right? Their vote is not going to count for either of A or B in the next round, because that's what they wanted, right? This is what their vote meant. Assuming that they know what they're doing, this is what they wanted to happen. Their vote shall not be counted in any of the future rounds. Okay, anyway, let's add up the votes this time. We have only A's and B's, and just see who wins. A has 5 and 3, still 8 for A, and B, I think B's going to win. 4 and 2 and 4, right? So B now has 10, and B wins. All right. This is how we do it when some people didn't vote for all 3 options. All right, it's no real surprises here, but I would just want to do one example like this. And let me just say the 3 voters for C had their votes thrown out for round 2. All right, and there's a name for this when people talk about this, you know, in the media, the liberal media. These are called exhausted votes. Exhausted. Trying to write nice here. Exhausted votes, all right? That is to say, like my vote becomes exhausted if everybody I wrote down, if they all get eliminated, then there's just nobody to count my vote for in the later rounds, and that's called an exhausted vote. It means that all of the people they wanted to vote for got eliminated. And once that happens, that vote can't count for anything anymore. All right? Those are called the exhausted votes. This thing, if you look in the... Sorry, let me just, I've got another example. This is any thoughts about this, first of all? This was a simple kind of made-up example. I got a really, really real one. This is a real world. This is an election for the U.S. Senate in Alaska. You know, every state in this great land gets 2 senators. Being a senator, a U.S. senator, is a big deal. I mean, every state only gets 2 of them, so there's a total of 100 of them. And there was an election for the U.S. Senate from the state of Alaska in 2022. This was actually a special election because I think the person who was the senator, this election happened like in August or something. The person who was the senator died, and so they needed to replace them. Even though there was a regularly scheduled election in November of 2022. So actually, this election happened, somebody became the new senator for like a month, and then they immediately had another election, which usually doesn't happen. So the outcome of this election actually wasn't all that important in the grand scheme of things, because they were only a senator for a couple months until the next real election. But anyway, it was still a big deal. I mean, being a U.S. senator is a big deal. In any case, there were 3 major candidates. Of course, there's always a bunch of jokers on there, but these were the 3 major candidates. They were Mary Peltola. She is a Democrat. There was Sarah Palin, and she is sort of a Trump-style Republican, Trumpy Republican. And then there was this other guy, Nick Begich, and he is a, I would say, non-Trumpy Republican. He's more of like an old school, he's not an old person, but he's more of an old school sort of conservative, I'll just say, non-Trumpy Republican. All right, anybody heard of Sarah Palin? She's sort of like the most famous of these 3 people. Sarah Palin was she was the vice presidential pick for John McCain when he ran for president. McCain was Obama's first opponent. And Sarah Palin was McCain's vice presidential nominee. And she was like a very divisive figure in the media, I guess. She was portrayed in the media as just like a dumb woman, a stupid, ditzy, hot lady. This is how the media portrayed her at the time. This was in like 2008, I think, is when Obama first became the president. And many people said that the negative response to Sarah Palin at that time is what helped Obama to win, that McCain might have won if he hadn't picked such a horrible running mate. This is what they said at the time. I think this was a bit of misogyny on behalf of the American public. Like, Sarah Palin was the first major female candidate for the vice presidency who had a real chance, and she was easily portrayed as sort of a dumb lady. And this was in the days, like nowadays our president calls ladies dumb all the time, but back then this was very unheard of to sort of like personally attack a major figure like that. But anyway, these were the 3 candidates on the ballot. Now, in a normal election, not using the ranked choice, you would never put 2 different Republicans on the same ballot. That's because if you have 2 Republicans on the same ballot, then all your Republican voters, you expect like maybe half of them are going to vote for Palin and the other half are going to vote for Begich. But this is actually a disaster for them if they're going against a Democrat who's already going to get the other half of the votes, right? This is referred to as vote splitting. You would never put in a plurality system 2 different Republicans on the ballot, because all the Republicans would have to choose one or the other, and then the Democrat is going to get a lot more than either of those 2. But this vote splitting issue is not a problem in the ranked choice, because if half of the Republicans are voting here and the other half here, then probably one of the 2 Republicans is going to lose in the first round. But then all those Republican voters will transfer their votes to the other one in the second round, and everything will be fine for the ranked choice. So anyway, let me just say, parenthetically speaking, in the ranked choice voting, it's fine to put 2 Republicans on the ballot. The fact that there are 2 Republicans on there does not hurt their chances. In a plurality system election, putting 2 people of the same party on the same ballot definitely hurts them a lot. But in a ranked choice voting, it does not hurt them to put them both on the ballot together. Because, like I said, if one of them loses in the first round, which they probably will in the first round, it's like half the Republicans are going to vote for Palin, the other half for Begich, which makes their first round totals much lower than the Democrat. But then one of them will be eliminated, and then in the second round, the votes will redistribute, and everything will be sort of back to normal in the second round. All right, anyway, let me tell you how the votes went here. So these were the votes in thousands. Unfortunately, 2 of these people, their last name starts with P, so I'm going to call them, so let's say 48,000 people, I'm going to say Pel, B, and Pal. So Pel is Peltola, B is Begich, and Pal is Palin, all right? So these voters here, looking at that preference, I would say these are traditional Democrat voters. Peltola, remember, is the Democrat, and Begich and Palin are the 2 Republicans. And these people, they like Peltola the best, and they don't like the other 2 Republicans. But I suppose between the other 2 Republicans, I guess they like Begich better than Palin. All right? Okay, let me just give you some more here. We had 34,000 people said Palin, then Begich, then Peltola. So these people seem to me to be traditional, like Republican, almost these maybe sort of more Trump-style Republicans. So they like Palin the best, but then the other Republican is their second choice, and Peltola, the Democrat, is their last choice. Okay, we also had 27 Begich, Palin, Peltola. These people are more traditional Republican, I guess. They like Begich the best. Second choice is Palin, the Trumpy Republican, and then their last choice is the Democrat. Then we had 24,000 people said Peltola or nobody. These are Republican haters. They say, I like Peltola the best, and I do not want you to count my vote for those demons in any case, all right? If Peltola loses, I'm out. I'm not going to support either of the other 2. Okay, then we had 21,000 Palin or nothing. These are like, they love Sarah Palin, and they hate the other 2, all right? 16,000 said Begich, Peltola, Palin. This vote is a little bit strange if you only think of it in terms of Republicans versus Democrats. Here they put a Republican on the top, then the Democrat, then the other Republican. I think these people could be considered or could be described as Palin haters or maybe even Trump haters. They like Begich, the traditional Republican, the best. They really don't like Palin, though, apparently, so they put the Democrat above Palin. All right, I got a few more here. 11,000 said Begich or nothing. The true Begich stands. 5,000 said Peltola, then Palin, then Begich. This is a very strange vote. The Trumpy Republican as their first. Oh, no, sorry. That's not a very strange vote. This is the Democrat first, then the Trumpy Republican, then the other Republican. This last column is a very strange vote, but apparently there are some people who feel this way. Palin, then Peltola, then Begich. They have the sort of Trump-style Republican first as their first choice. Their second choice is the Democrat, and then their third choice is the other Republican. These are Begich haters, which to me, it's weird to me that somebody would feel this way, but who am I to judge? All right, these are all the votes. I round them off to the nearest thousands. All right, could I have you all try to add up? I would like to see what are the results. Find the ranked choice voting results. Unfortunately, you're going to have to add together some of these numbers. You can use your phone calculator if you want to. Or just add them up in your head if you're good at that sort of thing. See how you do. I'm going to walk around and see how you're doing. I'm going to start writing my answer here. All right, can we talk about them? It looked, as I was going around, it looked like everybody's doing great. Some people messed up the numbers, which is not a big deal. Probably on our tests or something, I probably wouldn't give you numbers these big. I mean, I know everybody is capable of adding these numbers up, but I don't want you to get it wrong just because you added some numbers wrong. So anyway, these are the totals in round one, and Begich is eliminated. Right, because he has the fewest, 54. And so now we're going to count these votes again, just between Palin and Peltola. So this is round two. I got 48 say Peltola Palin, 34 say Palin. Sorry, this is annoying because their names both start with P. 27 say Palin Peltola. 24 say Peltola, 21 say Palin. These 16 go Pal. These 11 are exhausted because their guy Begich was eliminated. 5 people here say Peltola Palin. 4 people here say Palin Peltola. Trying to write in an unambiguous way. All right, that's the chart after doing this, and now we add up the scores here. Peltola and Palin, I added these up before. I got 93 for Peltola and 86 for Palin. Anybody agree or disagree? Some people agree. Nobody disagrees. Great. All right, and so Peltola is the winner, and this is what really happened in real life. Mary Peltola wins, the Democrat. She became the senator for like 2 months, and then they had another election. Would you believe it? When they did the election 2 months later, again, Palin, Peltola, and Begich were the three candidates, and again, Peltola won. I mean, after only a couple months, not a lot of people changed their mind, apparently. And so when they did the election, the regularly scheduled election for that year, Peltola was the winner again, and she became, actually she was the first indigenous Alaskan native to become a U.S. senator. So good on you, Mary Peltola, the senator from the great state of Alaska. This was actually, since then they have had another Senate election in 2024. That time Palin did not run again. It was just Peltola and Begich won. So actually Begich is currently the senator from Alaska occupying this seat in the Senate. But anyway, Peltola was the winner. All right. After this election, this was the first time actually that ranked choice voting had been used in the state of Alaska, because they had only recently decided to switch over to ranked choice. The Republicans were big mad about the results here. The Republicans hated this result. And I thought I'd give you a little sampling of the sort of statements that various people made about this election. There's an election, or there's some video footage of a press conference that Sarah Palin did the day after the election, or something like the day after the results came out. Sarah Palin, who had just lost, was really upset about this. She said, this is a quote from her talking. You can look this up on YouTube or something. Look up Sarah Palin, ranked choice voting. She said, ranked choice voting, when it comes down to second and third place votes, that's going to decide who's going to win. I mean, really? This is what she said. This is a direct quote. Comes down to second and third place votes. That's going to decide who's going to win. Really? And the answer is yes, Sarah, really. That's how the system works. I think Sarah Palin, I don't think she's an idiot, but she kind of talks in a way that maybe it's just like internalized misogyny that I have. She talks like sort of a stereotypical kind of bimbo sort of speak. I don't know. And this is how she was universally portrayed in the media when she was the vice presidential candidate. I think, she's less famous now, so people don't talk about her as much, but she really kind of leaned into that image with this quote, in my opinion. When it comes down to second and third place votes, that's going to decide who's going to win? Really? Yes, really. Although I think this is a general attitude that a lot of people in America seem to have. This kind of principle that, like, we just shouldn't be considering people's second and third place votes. It's just not right to ask people who's your second choice, or who's your third choice. Me personally, like, I don't really understand that point of view. I mean, I don't know. I don't see a reason why you shouldn't make an election depend on people's second or third place votes. But it's definitely jarring, and some people have this kind of like negative reaction to that. Sarah Palin, in another like more in like a written statement, she referred to ranked choice voting as a crazy, convoluted ranked choice voting system. Oh, I left out confusing. She said confusing also. I think she was trying to say that she didn't lose because she lost. She lost because this is a ridiculous system that they were using. And the absurd system caused her to lose, all right? And this is something I think actually it's a theme in a lot of when people make public statements about ranked choice voting. I would say if you're trying to judge if these people are being straight with you, look to the winners and the losers. Usually the way it works out is whoever lost says this system is ridiculous and we shouldn't have done it that way, because I only lost because of the ridiculous, crazy system. And the winners say, oh no, this system is great because it's somehow like a true democratic system, when perhaps they only love it because it made them win, and perhaps the losers only hate it because it made them lose. But anyway, Sarah Palin described it as crazy, convoluted, and confusing. In my opinion, it actually is a little confusing. Well, I would say, okay, for me personally, as like someone who's very comfortable with mathematics in general, I don't think it's really all that confusing or complicated. I mean, it's something that I expect you all to do on the homework for tomorrow, so like it's something that you have to figure out, but it's not beyond any of our ability to understand this system. It's not all that crazy or confusing. But for normal people in real life, especially if they don't really know what to expect when they go to vote, this can be a little confusing to some people. I was talking to my mom about this once. My mom lives in Massachusetts, and they recently voted whether or not to switch all of their Massachusetts elections to ranked choice, and it didn't happen. And I talked to my mom about it. I said, so Mom, did you vote for the ranked choice switch? And she was like, I don't know, it seemed kind of confusing to me. I was like, oh, Mom, you're killing me. It is a little confusing if you don't really know much about it. All right, one other statement from the media, and this was not from Sarah Palin or her people. This was from a group called the Heritage Foundation. I don't know if you've heard of these guys. If you're into politics, you surely have heard of them. The Heritage Foundation is you might describe them as sort of ultra-conservative think tank. They are the people who created something called Project 2025, which is a super conservative vision of the future of our country. Anyway, the Heritage Foundation official statement about ranked choice voting, they are ranked choice haters, and what they say about this is ranked choice voting eliminates genuine binary choices. Between two top-tier candidates. This is a quote from they have like an official position paper about ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting eliminates genuine binary choices between two top-tier candidates. And this, I completely agree with them about this. It is true, when you are voting in a ranked choice, you are not just deciding between two top-tier candidates. Genuine binary choices. Binary means just like one or the other option, right? When you're doing ranked choice voting, you are not just choosing one or the other option. This is true. You are not making a binary choice between two top-tier candidates. Now, the Heritage Foundation says this like it's a bad thing, that the only way to do voting, as if the only way to do voting is just between two options. And I would say that is up to you. I mean, this is not obviously a bad thing, in my opinion. Anybody have an opinion? I'm not trying to give you, like I said, my own political hot takes. I am interested in I do think it's appropriate to share my takes as a mathematician. It's true, the ranked choice eliminates genuine binary choices. When you vote with the ranked choice, it is no longer a binary choice. Whether that's a good thing or not is up to you. And I mean, from a mathematical point of view, it's not obviously a bad thing. Right? Let me say something a little bit more specific. We got a few more minutes. There was a statement, this I saw on the Twitter, back when it was still called the Twitter. This was a statement from a Senator Tom Cotton, who is a Republican. He's kind of a Trump fan. He said, ranked choice voting is a scam to rig elections. Now, I hesitate to take a side in hot button political debates, but I am comfortable saying ranked choice is not a scam. All right, you hear I think Trump has described it in this way because he doesn't like it, and a lot of Republicans describe it in this way because they don't like it. I would say and I'm not trying to give my political takes here, but as a mathematician, it's not a scam. It's just a different way of counting up the votes. And if you don't like it, then that's fine. Like you can like it or dislike it, but don't call it a scam. It's not like, or here's some people say like, this is the only reason that they're using ranked choice is so that they can steal the elections. Like to me, that doesn't count as stealing the election if you are just using a different mathematical system. This is not like cheating, like you're not making up votes or something like that, right? I don't think it's legit to call it a scam. That to me is going a little far. But here's something, like Tom Cotton actually explained himself a little bit better, and this actually is something that's worth thinking about. So what Tom Cotton said was, in this election, he's talking specifically about this election in Alaska, 60% of the voters voted for a Republican. But thanks to ballot exhaustion, a Democrat won, and he put the quotes around won. A Democrat won thanks to ballot exhaustion. So this actually is a specific sort of mathematical statement that we could actually consider, not just sort of a. I consider this RCV as a scam. That's just like a, I don't know, some kind of bluster, right? This though is a real statement. 60% of voters voted for a Republican. First of all, that is kind of true. Like if we look at the numbers here, and you can see this, if you just look at the original votes here, right? And specifically, like you could see this summary here. This is who put various people at top of their list. 77 people put Peltola on the top, which is a Democrat. This many people put Republicans on the top. That's actually a lot more than 77, right? It is true. What Tom Cotton is talking about is actually a legitimate concern here. So right here, I would say 77 voted Democrat. And how many of the other, 59 plus 54, whatever that is, 113 voted Republican. Right? If you think of it this way, this is a real problem, in my opinion. At least it seems to be on the surface. How can it be, after this happened in the first round, how can it be that the Democrat ends up winning? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Anybody have feelings about this? Yeah?
Well, I feel like it's almost more of an issue, maybe, like, there's not as much, I feel like, awareness and education on, like, the ranked choice voting. Like, I really wasn't that familiar with it until I learned about it. And, like, I think that if people knew more, like, I don't think Republicans could make that claim that it's, like, a scam if, like, people knew behind, like, okay, like, I know that what an exhausted voter, what did you say it was, exhausted vote, is now, so, like, I'm not going to just vote for Peltola. Like, you can see, like, it's not necessarily the system, it's just when that happens, I guess, that it like, messes with it.
Yeah.
I feel like if there was more awareness and education on it, it could possibly be a good system for us to do, and it could work. But I can see the frustration, I guess. Yeah,
right. Yeah, the system is at least a little bit complicated, and I totally agree. If the voters don't understand what they're doing, then this is not a good system to use. Like it can't, even if you think somehow the ranked choice is like a more democratic, nothing can be democratic if the voters don't understand what they're doing. And so if it's true that the voters don't know what they're doing, then there are major problems in using any, I would say any voting system where the voters don't understand it is a problem. And yeah, he specifically blamed the exhausted ballots, which in this example, the exhausted ballots were right here, these 11, right? And you can see actually, in the end here, if those 11 had not been exhausted, if they instead counted for Palin, then Palin would have won here, all right? And so one way to interpret this is to say these 11 Begich ride or die voters, if they had only put Palin second, then Palin would have won this election, and that's true, right? the reason that Palin lost, you could say, from some point of view, the reason that Palin lost is because those ballots got exhausted. And we should not have, and this is something that if you look at like typical Republican opinions about ranked choice voting, many of them will say exhausted ballots should not be allowed because situations like this can occur. Those baggage voters, what, do you just throw their votes away? You can't just throw people's votes away, right? Anybody have a response to that? I also feel like this argument is not entirely legitimate either. What do you say?
I feel like the normal voting system, we also have people that don't vote that might have another opinion.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's kind of the same in this case.
Yeah, so that's definitely true. In the usual system that we use, anyone voting for someone outside of the top two, you are throwing their votes away too. So if this is an issue with the ranked choice, it is also an issue with the plurality system. Anyone had? That's not what I was going to say.
It's just kind of like they chose to, like, if that person did win, they chose to have their votes exhausted.
Right. Yeah, that's what how I would respond to someone who there are people who hate ranked choice voting, and in my opinion, actually, there are some good reasons to hate ranked choice voting, which we're going to talk about eventually. But being a hater because of exhausted ballots, I don't think is a good reason because, as she said, these people here, they chose to vote in that way. And what this vote means is I only like Begich and I want you to throw my vote away after if Begich loses, right? Now, again, it is a major issue. If those people didn't understand what they were doing, then we got something to talk about. But this throwing their votes away after the first round, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's how the system is meant to work. And it makes sense to throw their votes away because they, at least in theory, this is what they intended to happen because they were Begich stands, Begich or nothing, all right? Thanks to ballot exhaustion, a Democrat won. I think what he's saying is if you had not exhausted the ballots but instead counted them for Palin, then Palin would have won. My response to that would be like, okay, but why would you count them for Palin? If you decide not to exhaust them, why don't you count them for Peltola? And I think Senator Cotton's response would be like, because they're Republicans. I think what this is my general response is like, what he's saying is not exactly false, but the analysis is focused, I would say, this focuses on parties too much. And this is a fact about ranked choice, which you can like this or dislike it, but ranked choice voting in general, this is part of the purpose of ranked choice voting. It de-emphasizes parties and it sort of re-emphasizes individual people, or maybe I should just say individual candidates. All right? And you can actually see this very clearly in the voters in this election using ranked choice. I'm going to scroll up. Sorry to scroll away from what I just wrote. These voters, I would say specifically right here and here. Can anyone say what's interesting about those two columns from the point of view of the parties? There is something interesting about those two. Yeah?
Republican and then Democrat.
Yeah, these two parties voted Republican top choice, Democrat second choice, Republican last choice. And similarly here, right? That's 20,000 people. Apparently, these people are not party loyalists, right? They actually are individually thinking about these people, not in terms of their parties, but in terms of just who they are as individuals. That's 20,000 people, which is a huge margin, like considering that this was the final result of the election. Those 20,000 people going one way or the other would have decided the outcome differently. And so I would say, in this case, Tom Cotton's analysis is based on just looking at everything in terms of parties. But in this election, 20,000 people didn't care about the parties. They split the parties in their votes. All right. So that's why I say Tom, in my opinion, this is like a mathematical analysis of what he's saying, not trying to say political hot takes here. Cotton is focusing too much on the parties, but actually you can tell in the data of this particular election, the people of Alaska were not focused on the parties so much. At least 20,000 of them were willing to split the parties in their votes, all right? The ranked choice de-emphasizes the parties and emphasizes individual candidates. And this, you can have your own opinion about. Is this good or bad? You have to sort of decide on your own, I guess. Do you like the Republicans and the Democrats as parties, as institutions, or would you rather a system in which you can just kind of like choose your favorite candidate regardless of what party they're in? This is, to me personally, this is one of the reasons why I like ranked choice voting, because I myself am not all in on a political party, this or that party. I'd be a lot more comfortable if my vote reflected my opinions about the individual people rather than the institutions of the parties. All right. I should just say one thing that I'm sort of retorting to all of these upset Republicans. One thing that ranked choice vote lovers say that I also have an issue with. RCV lovers like to say one of the benefits of ranked choice voting means that the winner will always end up with at least 50% of the votes. As I mentioned last time and the time before, in the plurality system, the system we usually use, usually the winner, like for instance, of the US presidency, usually nobody's getting actually more than 50% of the vote. When you count up the votes, it's something like, the winner is like 49 and the loser is 47, something like that. Nobody ever breaks 50%. They do sometimes, but typically they don't even break 50%. Something that the ranked choice vote lovers like to say is this is another benefit of the ranked choice system. When you're doing the ranked choice voting, it's guaranteed that the winner ends up with at least 50%. And if we look at the Balin-Peltola business, you can see right here in the final result here, Peltola actually does have more than 50% of these votes, right? I don't know what the percentages are, but you could figure them out if you want to. Peltola has more than half of the votes. I actually think this is a completely bogus thing to say about ranked choice voting. Anybody agree with me? I think this is an illusion to say that Peltola won with more than 50%. It's not actually true. Does anyone agree? I mean, it is true technically when you look at those two numbers, but there are reasons why it doesn't make sense to say Peltola won with more than 50%. Any thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if you just look at round one again,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense because like they originally had like 60% Republican.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you look at this, what the lovers are saying down there really only makes sense when you look at the last round. It's true. In the last round, there's only going to be two options left, and so one of them will get more than 50%. That's true. But this doesn't mean that actually half of the people in Alaska liked Peltola the best. And in fact, that is false. If you look at their votes in the first round, you can see this is less than 50% of the people put Peltola at the top, all right? So the reason that it seems like Peltola gets more than 50% is only because it's like just a way that we write down the calculation. And in fact, you could say it's only because of the exhausted ballots. We threw out the people who liked Begich on the top, and so their numbers are not reflected in here. So I'm going to say this is also bogus to say that this all ignores the exhausted ballots, which matter, right? The ranked choice lovers tend to say, "Oh yeah, we should ignore the, we should exhaust the ballots." This analysis here ignores the exhausted ballots, which do not support the original winner, or the eventual winner, I will say. So, like in the last round, It's true, in the last round, whoever wins the last round gets 50% at least of the last round, but they do not get 50% of the votes overall. And that's the only thing that really matters, right? The winner will always end up with at least 50% of the votes. I think they mean for this to imply that whoever wins automatically is the favorite of at least 50% of the voters, but that's not true at all. It only means in the last round, which, who cares about that, right? There were many voters whose votes were thrown away. All right, that's all for today. A lot fewer political hot takes next time. We're gonna get down to some more math.